Hey traders, in today's video we are going to be talking about a very big trade that I currently have on USD SGD. This trade is kind of a monster, and we're going to talk a little bit about this particular trade, how I got into the trade, as well as what I plan to do on the trade going forward. Now this trade is a little bit longer term than what I usually record. A lot of times when I record the short-term trades that I put on my YouTube channel, I can do so in a day or two. Well, this is more of a swing trade, longer term trade. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record this in pieces over time. So it might be a little bit of just know that this is happening over the course of more than one day. So this is USD SGD. I'm looking at the daily chart right now, and I am currently long on this pair on a big breakout on this daily trend line. What you guys may know from some of my other videos is that I really like the daily chart, and I think that there's a lot of potential by trading the daily chart because you can catch some of the bigger moves in the currency market, right? When you're looking at these short-term charts, sometimes people are going for 30 pips, 20 pips, 40 pips, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do that myself in some of my short-term accounts. But in this move, what I'm looking for is the bigger picture. I'm looking for those big swings, those big movements that can make a lot of money if you know what you're doing in the currency market. So what we're here doing right now on USD SGD, I am long on this particular pair because we broke this trend line, and I'm also using this particular account mostly as a breakout and continuation strategy. Now you might be asking, well, Nick, where's your stop and where's your target? And this particular strategy, I do not use either one. Actually, it's a very simple concept. I'm looking for key breakouts of structure, and when those happen, I look to buy the market, and all I use to stop out is a 20 period SMA. So let me show you what I mean by that. If price goes against me, then I just close out underneath the 20 period SMA. This would be considered a loss, right? Well, what we have right now is price actually continuing to move up in my favor. In fact, at this moment, I believe we're up over 200 pips on this particular swing position. So as price makes its way to the north side, to the upside in my favor, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this 20 period SMA as my dynamic stop out level. What that means is that as this price goes more in my direction, so does the moving average, which allows me to lock in more gains. So at this point, you can see technically I could still actually lose money on this position. If price went like this and closed underneath the 20 period, I could lose profit off of this trade. I could actually make a loss, right? So a lot of times people will see that and say, Nick, you should just take profits right now. But what I'm doing on this particular account is I'm looking to catch as much of a move as possible on some of these bigger, longer term swings that we often see in the currency market. Now you might be noticing that I'm trading USD SGD. This is a little bit more of an exotic pair. It's not a very super traded. It's not something like Euro USD or pound dollar, right? This is a more exotic pair. And what I'm looking to do with this particular position is catch as much move as the market wants to give me. So again, I am long at this point on a break of this trend line and horizontal level of what was resistance. It broke out, I got long, I joined the move, and now I am currently holding on to a winner. A lot of times new traders, they struggle with doing the exact opposite. They struggle holding on to winners, and they very quickly hold on to, for a long time, those losers, right? So if you're short right here, losing traders a lot of times will just hold that thing forever, and they'll never get rid of it until it blows their account. In this case, I'm doing the exact opposite. What I'm doing is I'm buying into this market, and as price goes in my favor, I hold on to it. If it goes against me, I'm out of the trade. That's all it is. It's very, very simple. I'm holding my winner here. I liked the idea of the breakout of this longer term downtrend continuation. We had that downtrend structure, but when it started to break, things unwound a little bit, and now we're seeing some nice run up to the upside. So with that said, again, as I mentioned, I'm up just around 250 pips on this position, and I'm not ready to close it. In fact, I'm gonna let this thing run as long as it wants to do so, right? As long as the trend is continuing to push to the upside, I wanna be holding my winning position. So as it keeps going, I'm gonna keep working with it. And if we can make a move past the recent high, that would be great. But again, I'm still going to be holding my position so long as we are trading above the 20 period SMA. Okay, and that's all I'm using to stay in the trade. It's very, very simple. A lot of times traders make things very complicated. I'm keeping them as simple as possible here, just riding the trend as long as possible. I took the trade on the counter trend breakout, holding now what is an uptrend as long as possible. I'll keep you guys on an update. This might take a few days to do another series, but we'll see. I'll be back soon with an update on you guys' end.
Hey traders, so quick little update here on USD SGD. So price is still moving. You can see overnight. I just woke up and I came back to the desk doing my trading this morning and kind of checking on my positions before I head out to the office. But what I noticed here is that price continued overnight in the direction of the trend. Now remember, last time on the update, I talked about, I could have potentially taken profits here. I could have taken profits along the way, right? There was this temptation to take profit. And not that taking profit is wrong if you have a target in mind, but the idea that I have with this trade is, again, to let it run for all I can, all that it's worth, right? So I do not have a target. Now I want to make sure that I made this clear. I don't actually have a stop loss in place either. So I don't have a stop and I don't have a target. It's literally just a buy trade that met my entry for a criteria for an entry, right? And I'm holding a buy trade. I do not have a stop loss. I do not have a target. The idea here is that when price, not if, but when price decides to come down and trade underneath the 20 period SMA, I'm out of the trade. And what that means, you might say, well, Nick, what if you're not watching the chart when it comes down to the 20 period moving average? Well, again, this is a swing trade, so I'm only really checking my position once or twice a day. I just happened to pull this up so that I could make the next segment of the video because I wanted to clarify this, right? As price goes in my favor, currently we're up, let's see how many pips we're up on this particular trade at this point. So this trade is up 300 pips now. That's a really, really nice move. And I'm really happy with how this trade is playing out so far. Now, you might say, Nick, just take profit. Just get the profit off the table. And in a few days, I might look like an idiot if I hold my position right now because price very well could retrace and come down and get me out of the trade. But that's not what I'm going to do per my rules. What my rules say is that I do not get out of the trade until it crosses back underneath the 20 period SMA. My goal would be to let this thing run as long as possible so that I can catch some of the biggest moves possible, right? You can see here's an example of a really great move. If you just took profits too soon, then you might have missed the entire move, right? I don't know exactly where this trend ends up, but my goal is to let it run. So currently we are up 300 pips on the move, right? And so if price starts to retrace, which I think is possible, we are at a level of resistance, but I'm still bullish, right? I still like the idea of catching the biggest trend possible. If we break back down, then at some point I'll look to close underneath the 20 period SMA per my rules. And you will not catch me doing anything outside of that with this particular strategy. The goal is to literally just let the trade run as long as possible, regardless of what my mental state says. Because right now, my emotions tell me, Nick, take the profit. It's right here. It's at a resistance point. It's gonna come back down. You're gonna lose money, or if you don't take the profit now, right? That's what the struggle with being a trader can be, is you have the temptation to take your profit really quickly as soon as you see it because you don't want to lose it, right? But we have to have the guts as traders. We have to be able to have the strength to say, I'm going to hold my position as per my rules say to do so until it's right for an exit criteria. And in this strategy, my exit is literally just the 20 period SMA, looking to catch as much of the move as possible. I'll be back with you guys soon with an update. Hopefully we can see how this trade plays out going forward. Okay, traders, so we're here back with an update. You can see over the weekend, the price actually gapped up in our favor, and you can see this thing just continues to run in the favor of my particular trade here, which is really nice. You can see price is now up, I want to say nearing 300 pips to the upside. Let's see. Yeah, 310 pips to the upside in favor of the initial buy position here on USD SGD. This is a fantastic runner so far. And the reason I wanted to make a short little update here is, again, price gapped up over the weekend, which is great. It came into our favor, kind of jumped up in now making highs of this move, which is great. Things are in our favor. And again, a lot of times there's this temptation right now to take profits. And very well could we see a pullback here on this market. But what you'll notice is that to a degree, my stop loss has been trailed right around my break-even point. That might sound a little bit ridiculous because, again, we're up 300 pips or so here on the move. So it kind of seems like, well, that feels like you're being way too patient with your stop loss.
And the purpose with this is actually to keep it as slow and steady and conservative with the stop loss as possible. So what you can notice is that our 20 period SMA is just now reaching the point where it is back to break even on this move. What that means is that if price came all the way back down, I could close out for break even on this move. Even though it's gone 300 pips in my favor, I'm still only going to be moving stops to break even. There's a good reason behind this. The basic idea here is that I don't want to get too close with my stop loss because I want to give this trade still room to go. I still think that US dollar SGD has the movement, has the potential here to keep running to the upside. I don't necessarily think it's all over, and that is kind of a combination of that breakout. It's also a combination with the strength that the market is currently moving in. A lot of times this causes some really big short squeezes, some really big continuation moves, and sometimes we can get some of our craziest moves from moves that look like this initially, right? People saying, oh, it's too high here, it's gotta come down. Sometimes that leads into some of the real crazy runners that can really make a difference. So I'm still holding on to my position. You'll see hopefully in the next coming videos that this, or the next updates, that these the 20 period simple moving average here will likely continue to hug price and get closer. So that will kind of be acting as my trailing stop, but we'll see overall where this price ends up going and how the trade ends up. Keep you guys updated soon.
Okay, traders, so a little update here on USD SGD. What you can see here is price has continued to move overall in our favor. We've actually kind of halted here at the recent high. It's been a few days since I've done an update here, but what you can see is we came up to this recent high area. We actually found short-term resistance there, but we are still seeing bullishness still kind of working its way into this market. I'm hoping that we can see price clear through the highs, but either way, I want to talk about something more important than potential reward right now. I want to talk about where our risk is at with this trade. What you'll notice is take a look down here at that 20 period SMA that we've been watching, right? Keeping an eye on this. This is going to be our indicator of when we get out of the trade. Remember, I'm not using a target and I'm not using a stop loss. I'm using the 20 period SMA in this particular strategy to get me out of the trade. What's kind of nice here is as time goes on, right, as we continue to stay floating to the upside here, my 20 period moving average is slowly creeping its way up and locking in profits along the way, right? So at this point, the trade, it won't be a loser, right? At the very least, we'll come down and we'll get out of the trade there, right? So at this point, it's kind of nice because it's one of those things where it's not necessarily how much money do I lose, it's a matter of how much money do I stand to win in this case. The last time we watched this, I believe, or we updated this, I believe we were just around break even on technically our trailing stop. Now what we see is that we're going to be trailing it a little bit further and we're going to let this trade continue to run. Let me tell you what I'm really looking to see if USD SGD can do. Again, we identified this major level of resistance where price just recently tagged, right? We found resistance and price pulled back. Okay, what I'm looking to see happen is hopefully if we want to continue this bullish trend, I would like to see that resistance point here that we pointed out actually gets broken and disrespected to the upside. What that would show me is that, okay, buyers are strong enough to be breaking through this significant level and I want to continue to be in my trade and I'll continue to trail my stop from there. Right, so we'll see ultimately what decides to happen here. The cool thing again about trailing my stop like this rather than just putting a hard take profit and stop loss is that it gives me the chance to let this trade become a monster if it wants to be. And if it doesn't, and this video doesn't turn out to be a monster trade, then it's okay too. Because I want you guys to see at least the mindset or the logic every step of the way. This is not hindsight. I'm doing this live as it's happening. I'm sharing my thoughts. I'm sharing my trade. So I want you guys to see the mindset that I have about this going into the next movement of this trade. If we completely reverse here, then no big deal. I'll take whatever profit I can get out of this trade, but I want to show you that this is how, if you want to catch monster trends, if you want to catch massive movements in the market, this is how you have to do it, right? You have to be patient. You have to be okay with not getting every single pip that the market moves, right? So if the market moves 50 pips in your favor, you might end up with only 5 pips, 10 pips, because you have to give that trade room to run if you really want a trend to develop in your favor, right? You have to be able to play the patient game and give that trade really the room to not stop out too easily. Okay, so I'll be back soon with an update here on USD SGD. And there we see it, guys. As we had hoped on USD SGD, price is back at the highs and looking like this little minor pullback may have been a failure for sellers to try and get lower. It looks like price wants to continue to the upside here. I'm really hoping that we can in fact see that. Again, price moving quite a bit in our favor so far, and at this point up total on the trade, let's see if we drag, around 310 pips there on the move so far. Looking really good, and hoping to see that this level can break. In fact, I guess one of the recent highs here would be this area. If price can get above there, I think that, you know, USD SGD continues to have room to run. I won't push my luck though. We are still trailing our stops here. You can see the 20 period moving average moving up in my favor there. So we are currently locked in at whatever distance this is. We'll actually calculate that really quick. Go from here to here. We're locked in right around 81 pips. So at this point, not a matter of how much money I lose, just a matter of how much I can make here. So USD SGD, we'll see what plays out next on this pair. So on USD SGD, we are here back at the recent highs. You can see we did get a continued push. We got this very kind of shallow retracement before price continued to push back to the upside. And really we're back in this red zone here. You can see to see if this level, which previously was a major level of resistance, can actually break. If we can get the break here, I think we have potential to continue to see this USD SGD move rise. We'll see where we're at with that in future updates here. But the big thing here also is that if you take a look at our current trade, we've got 125 pips or so locked in there on the 20 period moving average stop loss that we're using. And in terms of our overall trade, currently up about 310 pips. So again, if price decides to come all the way back right now, that would be, of course, you know, in some ways you might feel a little regret, you might feel a little sad about that. But that's what we're going to be doing. We can't get all the upside if we cut our trades too soon. So with this, what I'm going to be trying to do is I'm trying to hold on to this trade and see if we can continue to get this 20 period moving average to move in our favor before ultimately getting stopped out. So this trade inevitably will end up with a stop loss, you know, getting the trade out of play, but we're seeing how far this trade really wants to go. Again, the big barrier right now is this level of resistance. Can we get the break above? And if so, can we see some continued momentum push buyers to new highs here? So we'll stay tuned and come back with an update soon. So at this point, traders, this trade is becoming one of my biggest trades I've ever had in terms of movement, in terms of how long I've held the trade. USD SGD is very quickly becoming one of the biggest trades I've ever taken. You can see price actually broke through our level of resistance super strongly, super bullishly. Crazy move. At this point, I believe at one point here we were up over 468 pips. Crazy bullishness on this pair, and I've been holding it still to this point. Now you can see the stop loss, or at least our trailing stop here, is still moving into profit at this point, locking in about 172 pips there. So far so good on this pair. We did get another surge past our level of resistance, which is exactly what we were talking about in the previous update. Looking for this price level to get broken to the bullish side and to see some continuation on this pair. At this point, it would be considered, in my opinion, looking a little bit stretched to the upside. But again, I've basically let this trade run without trying to call tops on this position, right? I'm literally just letting the trade play out as long as it wants to play out, so long as we stay bullish. And right now, there's no signs of stopping. Could we see a reversal sometime here in the future? Sure, especially as price does get stretched more and more. You know, at some point, the chances of it pulling back become greater. But here's the thing, right now, I am letting this trade run. I am still holding the position. I'm not euphoric. I'm not making any sort of dumb decisions. I'm sticking to the plan that I've had since the beginning of this video. And again, really excited to see how this trade goes. It's literally becoming one of the biggest trades, definitely one of the longest positions I've held in the currency market, at least. You can see at this point, we've held the position for, let's see how many days, held it for about 16 trading days, right? So that's a long hold in terms of what I'm used to, right? Usually my trades are a few days. In terms of my swing trades, usually not really longer than 5 days. This trade is kind of triple, 3 times as long as the usual one. So still watching this trade, still going to keep you guys updated, and really excited to see how this trade decides to close out. All right, traders, there it is, USD SGD. I am officially out of this position here, and you can see what basically happened is I trailed my stop, as I mentioned,
with the 20 period SMA. And you can see actually price broke through this downtrend line. You can see price was headed down. And when we started to break through, I entered a buy position. It's actually been weeks since I started this trade, which is crazy to say. Weeks of holding this position. In fact, we got long right here. So let's see, how many days was this trade actually? It was 30 days. That's a month-long trade. That is a very, very long-term position for me in the currency world. Usually in the stock market world, I'll hold a trade for a while, but this is a very, very long-term trade. And what's funny is over the course of filming this video, it's been an entire 30 days. It's been a month-long trade, and we caught just about 300 pips on this pair. Very, very happy with how this played out. You can see when price basically got in long here, I just started trailing the stop using the 20 period SMA, and here officially we just got stopped out for the total trade there again of 300 pips. Now you might be saying, well, Nick, why didn't you just take profit up at the top? And at the top it would have been a move total of something about 480 pips, right? And obviously in hindsight I wish I would have done that, but we never know exactly what's going to happen in markets. And I think that maybe the message with this trade and why I'm sharing it with you guys is that, you know, the big picture is you never know with 100% certainty what the market is going to do. You know, people might have said take profits down here at this resistance, right? We ultimately did, in fact, get around 300 pips right at the previous high is where we ended up closing out. Sure, did we miss some of the upside? Yes, but we also captured some of the upside by being patient and holding this trade. And in this case, it worked out very nicely. We'll see how this kind of plays out if we get another trade or setup on dollar SGD. In the future, maybe I'll trade this pair again, but really just was banking on that longer term trend following setup that we started to see the break of this downtrend, and I basically thought there was a pretty good chance we'd see the uptrend. So it played out very nicely. Very, very happy with this trade. This was a nice winner, and finally out of this USD SGD trade. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a thumbs up down below. This was a long-term kind of filming process as well as a long-term trade. So if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys back next time.